Hello. I've brought you all here today to discuss the sunk cost fallacy. So let's say that you are in college and you decide your freshman year of college that you want to be an accountant. And so you start taking all these accounting classes and you're 2 years into taking the accounting classes and you realize halfway through, like, I hate accounting. I don't want to take accounting classes anymore. I don't want to do this for my life. I actually want to be an astronaut, right? The sunk cost fallacy would be if you were to say to yourself, oh, but I've already spent so much time and money to learn how to be an accountant that I should just follow through with that, even like knowing that it's not what you want. I think I've been falling into the sunk cost fallacy a little bit with this project. So instead of trying to do an elaborate metaphor that probably doesn't make any sense, let's just talk about this book. So I have been working on a book that goes by the alias of Project Sunshine for the better part of a year. I would say I actively worked on it for around 4 or 5 months out of the last year. It's what I've been working on up until this moment, frankly. Like the whole summer I've been working on it. I have a 90,000 word first draft and I have a 45,000 word second draft. This last weekend, spent this time replotting it. I made all these note cards. I have fleshed out all of the scenes for the rest of the book. And I've put a lot of work into this book. And I just realized yesterday that I don't like writing it. And I think I've been feeling that way about it for a while. Like I even go back and watch vlogs and yes, I enjoy writing generally, and so there will be moments where I enjoy what I've written or I enjoy certain elements. Like I'm not saying that this book is objectively terrible and that I'm throwing it away and never looking at it again, but I just haven't liked writing it. I feel like it's been odd. Hard to place. Like even from its inception, I was kind of trying to put together these two tropes that I think are interesting together. And I still think that the concept has legs. I think this book could still work, but I just don't want to write it right now. And I can honestly end the video right here and say, look, I don't want to write this book anymore. Moving on to the next one. That's all it takes. But I wanted to talk about how I really came to decide this because I've kept coming back to the question of should I shelve this book? And to give you a little bit of context, I've only ever shelved one other book in my life. Every other 5 books that I've written, I wrote all the way through, I revised all the way through, and the last time I touched them, I was happy with them for where I was. Like there were no more edits, there were no more revisions. It was done from my end. Of course, there's always edits that can be made, but I have done that for every book I've ever written, and I think I've held that as a point of look, I finish projects, I finish things. It's such common writing advice to just finish the book. That is the most common thing that people struggle with is actually just finishing the draft, finishing the book, finishing the revision. And so I'd always held it as this point of pride that I finish the books that I write and I get them to be as best as they can. And then I move on to the next thing. And of course, I had never intentionally been people who don't finish their books are bad. I never judged or looked down on people because of that, but I tend to hold myself to a much higher standard than I hold other people to. I am a writer and I finish books and I query them and I get ready for traditional publishing and I do all these things. And I've held that identity very close. And so even with Project Sunshine, which my plan up until yesterday was to finish out this draft and then get somebody to read it and maybe set it aside for a little bit, but to finish the draft. And I had a moment yesterday where actually Andy and Brielle did talk me into this, but it wasn't that they told me oh, maybe you should shelve the book. They were you don't really seem to be wanting to write this book. Every time we have a writing sprint, you kind of just are do I have to write this? Do I have to write? And the answer is no. Over the weekend, I had a moment of this is supposed to be fun. Writing books is supposed to be fun. And most of the time it is. And of course, every book has moments where it doesn't feel good. And every book has stages where you don't like writing it. And so I think I've been under this impression that that's what this is, that this is just a part of this book that I don't like writing. And that's fine. And I just need to push through and get to the end of the draft. I just need to push through that because not every book is going to be fun to write. And honestly, every book has moments where it's not fun. So not enjoying writing it was not an indication to me that I needed to stop. because I was like, well, this is just a mindset thing. I need to work on it. And that like, if I write, the joy will come. And it did. Like, there were moments where I really enjoyed writing. Honestly, recently there've been scenes that I've really loved, and I kind of liked how the plot came together, and I was liking the twists, and there was elements of it that I really did enjoy. And so for that reason, I was going to push through to the end. But these last 3 weeks has been full of a lot of revelation for me about who I am as a writer, what I really want, where I'm really going. And if you want to hear more about that, you can check out the video that I did last week on genre and about how I kind of have been coming into what my genre is. The long story short of it is that I used to believe that I wrote books that were primarily thrillers that had a strong romantic subplot, when really my books, like the essence of what I enjoy writing and what I'm strong at is romances that have a strong thriller subplot. And you might be thinking like those are very similar. Go check out that video. But also, I just want to clarify here, I do know that like dark romance and romantic suspense exist. I read mostly that, to be honest. Like, that is most of what my reading is. So it's not that I was unaware that this genre existed, but more so I had not thought of my writing as being a part of that genre. And now I do, right? So that, I just want to clarify that, because I've gotten some comments being like, seems like you just didn't know about romantic. And I'm like, I do know about the genres. Anyway, and this book is the least romantic thriller I've written to date. And I had a whole video last week where I was like replotting and trying to figure out, how can I make this book a romance? How can I pull out the romantic arc? And since then, I've had to actually write these scenes that are supposed to be like romantic moments between the characters. And they've been fine, but it has felt like I'm trying to force this book to be something that it's not. Like, I think this book at its core is a thriller, or I rewrite the whole thing as a romance that is very different in its structure. I would have to change quite a few things to make it a pure romance with a thriller B-plot. And I realized I was still 10 chapters from the midpoint. I was 45,000 words in. I was like, I still have probably another 60,000 words of this book to write. And it just feels like I'm cramming, like I'm a kid and I'm cramming 2 pieces, like a Lego and something that's not a Lego, and I'm trying to like build something that doesn't work. Like, I'm trying to make this book into something that it's not, because I had wanted it to match with this new like realization that I had about myself as an author. And like, I had to really come to terms with, why am I finishing this draft? Because I was like, okay, well, this will be the next book I query. This will be another thriller. Like, I started it, I should finish it. None of the reasons that I came up with why I should actually finish the book were really that good, because I think the main reason that I had it in my head I needed to finish it was because I finish books. Like, I started it, I should finish it, right? It's not really a good example of the type of book that I want to write. Like, I want to write a book that feels like me, and this book has always felt very experimental and has always felt like a challenge, which I like the challenge element of it, but to be honest, it doesn't feel like me as a book, as in terms of like the vibe. Like, it's very serious. It's actually been interesting to write, because when I tell people the concept, they laugh, but when I'm writing the book, it's like so serious and thoughtful, and like I'm doing a lot of thinking, and there are things about this book that I like, but I don't think it's the right thing for me to be working on right now. I'm not saying I'm never going to work on it again, because I probably will, but I want to move forward and write something I'm excited about, and something that will move my career forward. Because I had to like think about it and say, okay, I want to be intentional with my time. So I either want to write something that I love, or I want to write something that is going to move me in the right direction. And actually, I want it to be both of those things, something that I love and something that I can query next, or that I can self-publish if I want to do that. Like, I want it to be something that actually fits with who I am and who I'm trying to be. And Andy was asking me, like, is Project Sunshine, like, would you want that book to be your debut? And the answer is no. How it is right now. I might be watching this video in 4 years and being like, well, too bad, that was your debut. You know, I don't know what the future is. I'm not sitting here pretending to know how I'm going to feel about this book later down the road. But right now, I don't think that represents who I am as an author. It's not very funny. It doesn't have like a core romance that's really earnest. It goes a little bit darker and more like speculative. It's kind of like a ghost story almost. And like all these things are cool and good, but it's not what I want to go out swinging with, you know? I think that's the wrong use of that term, but you know what I mean? Like that's not what I want to go out the gate with. I'm not enjoying writing this book. I don't think it's what I want to query next. Why am I writing it? And the only like real answer that I could come up with was, well, you started it. Well, you've written 40,000 words of it. Well, you just spent all of the last 3 months revising it. Like I've been spending a lot of time and writing like 3 hours a day on this book. Like I have been putting in the hours, and I was like, that's not a good enough reason to keep going. Just because I've put hours into it doesn't mean that it's that it's like the right thing for me to be doing. And it also doesn't mean that any of that time is wasted. I think working on this book has challenged me on a line level, on a persistence level, on a plotting level, on a character. Like there's a lot of things that writing even just half of this book well has taught me, but I don't think it's worth the time to try to finish it out right now. I think I'm saying it right here, I probably will come back to this book and finish it. But right now, I want to focus on writing something I want to write. And I was really struggling even in making this video and even in coming to this decision yesterday, because there kept being that voice in my head being like, but you need to have a better reason for stopping. Like you've been working so hard on this book. You can't just drop it. I'm like, why can't I? I can just drop it if I want. Like this is for fun. It just feels like it's out of character for me to not finish a book. But I think it's actually a growing moment for me of I'm realizing with the help of some dear friends that I'm not enjoying this to a degree. Like I've enjoyed moments of it, but as a whole, like I'm not really very passionate about this story right now. And this story deserves me to be passionate about it. I think there will be a time where I am, and this just isn't it right now. And so I just had to like let go of this pride of like, I've been working on this, all these people on YouTube. It's so funny too, because this last week, so many people have been commenting like, oh my gosh, this book sounds so cool. Like, I'm so excited for you to publish this book. Like, this sounds really interesting. And while I have appreciated that, I can't be beholden to that. Like that's not a good enough reason to keep working on it, right? And then I also just started thinking about, okay, what am I doing after? Like, what if I wasn't working on this book, what would I be working on? Because I'm going to be doing some edits to Project Gas Station to query that in the romance market. I'm going to hold off on that though, because I want to write something new now that I know like who I am, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go right into plotting another romance thriller. I'm actually going to start writing and actually write a draft of a fantasy book for the rest of the year, I think. I think I need to write something totally new and totally different and something that I'm excited about. And I'm excited about this book, and I've been thinking about it a lot. If you remember, if you've been here a while, I brainstormed and outlined, and I actually have like 4,000 words written of this it's a romantasy. In the spring, like while I was working between Gas Station and Sunshine, I brainstormed and outlined this. And I think I want to really commit to it because it's just fun. It's things I love. It doesn't require too much like mental agonizing about the plot at this point. I'm sure I will be proven wrong by that, but I want to finish it and see how it goes. And then for the rest of the year, my plan right now is to start drafting this new book. And it's a duology, and I want to experiment with like, before I start writing it, I'm going to plot the whole duology. And I don't think that the books are going to be immensely long. At this point, I'm thinking they're probably going to be around 70 to 80,000 words. They might tip into the 100K, but I want to plot out both of them and write them as though they're one book, if that makes sense. Like I want to write a first draft all the way through of the whole duology. Again, I'm just saying this is kind of like a brainstorm. Like I just started thinking. I literally yesterday woke up and was like writing the next chapter of Project Sunshine. Last night is when I decided to put that one on the shelf for a while and come to this fantasy book. So these are not promises. This is just a plan, a general, the ramblings of a madwoman, one might say. But I want to write a really clean first draft. Like I want to be intentional about the words I'm using and the sentences, not to a nitpicky standard. Like I will, of course, line edit and do revisions, but I want to write a first draft that I am proud of and not like a dictated slop of a first draft. That is my plan. But at the same time, I'm going to be looking at reworking, touching up Gas Station. I'm going to wait a little bit on that because I'm still waiting on some fulls to come back. So I think maybe in the later fall, like maybe end of the year, like November, December, I might start looking at Gas Station and seeing, maybe get some eyes on it that are primarily romance eyes, and just seeing if nothing has panned out with that book yet, like how can I make even small adjustments to make it more of a conventional romance? Well, I mean, it won't be conventional. Girl, not gonna be conventional. And then requery it, potentially. I mean, this is all with the hopes that I won't have to do any of that. But like if everything remains as it is, query Gas Station to a new cohort of romance agents in the early spring, like February probably. I don't need to be worried about like getting Sunshine or another book done fast so that I can start querying it in the spring, because I have this other, like I would want to query Gas Station as a romance before starting to query a new thriller. And so like that piece of why I was working on Sunshine is kind of out of the picture too, because that was a big motivator for me to keep working on Project Sunshine. Was like, okay, well, it might not be exactly what I want, but like it could be another book to query in a year. Like if Gas Station's not working out, which is not a good reason to write a book, by the way. So anyway, just to have something else to query in a year, like that's not a good reason. And I was really falling into that unintentionally. Like it was like the genre thing where I kept coming back to this and I kept trying to tell myself like, no, the right thing to do is to finish this book. The right thing to do is to get it query ready. Like the right thing to do is to lean into it and just finish it out and see what it is. And I've said that you've heard me say that so many times. And while I was earnest in saying that, like I wanted to, like I thought that I believed that, and I did at the time, but this is a time for me of this like radical acceptance of a lot of things. And I think I'm working on humility as well. And I think that I hold a lot of pride with my work. Like I hold a lot of pride as how I think about myself as an author and how I think about what I work on and how the pace at which I write, and that I finish fast and that I do all of this. And I was holding that so tightly because I was seeing that as my identity, when the more important thing is to write a good book. And I've always known that. It's just sometimes it takes like a transformative experience to really realize those things. And while I didn't talk about this at the retreat at all, like this was not what I was thinking about at the retreat. Like I think that retreat I went on has really helped me like see things more clearly. It's also like, it was, I think Andy, who I was writing with, Andy and Braille last night, and they were like, you don't ever seem to be enjoying this book. Like, do you think you should shelve it? I think a past version of me, like a month ago, I would have been like, no, I'm just going to finish it. It'll be fine. But this retreat and thinking about myself and my writing in a different way has helped me to actually see like maybe I was wrong, or maybe I can just change my mind about that. And I don't need to hold tight to this plan I had made that I write a book a year and that I query every spring and that I do all like, I don't need to cling to that, because that's not the point. It's not the point. So that is what I'm going to be doing, is I'm going to be writing a romantasy. And I'm going to spend I'm probably around a week, maybe a little bit less, like really fleshing out scenes for the whole duology. I do have a Save the Cat outline for the first book, and I've also been brainstorming on and off for this book. So I have most of the characters and their backgrounds, and I've done a lot of like preliminary world building. And so I just need to kind of like just spend intentional time fleshing all of that out. But I'm going to just consume some media. I'm going to read romantic suspense. I'm going to read dark romance, which I do read a lot of that generally, but I'm going to read it more intentionally, thinking and like let this new vision of who I am as a writer marinate a little bit, and just see what ideas come up, in the hopes that like fully pivoting away from thriller and contemporary, like fully pivoting away from that will give me a little bit of like, give my mind and my like creativeness a little bit of time to like a break from that, like a true break from that, where I can come up with like really strong concepts and ideas that align with the vision of where I want to be. I really don't know if this made sense. And I think a lot of that is because it's like crazy that I'm even shelving this. Like I've never shelved a book like this before. But again, this doesn't mean I won't ever come back to it. And it also doesn't mean that I think the book is bad. Like I honestly was starting to like how the chapters were coming out. Like I was starting to enjoy it a little bit, but not enough. The thought of writing that second half of that book, and in the second half of the book, there were all these things that I love going on in it, but it sounded exhausting, especially for a book that I don't feel like really aligns with who I am right now. So if you were looking forward to Sunshine, you can still look forward to it. It'll just be much further in the future. I feel like I'm going to wake up one day and want to work on it. And if I do, then I'll work on it. Like it's not like I'm locking the drawer that I'm putting it in, but I'm just going to put it in the drawer for now. It is crazy to think about just not finishing it after putting all this work into it. But again, that's the sunk cost fallacy, is like, if I were to continue to spend another 60,000 words worth of my time on it, then it's even more time wasted. Not that any of the time has been wasted, but then you're throwing more time at this thing that you don't believe in, you know? So yeah, that's where I'm at. Let me know what you think down below. Have you ever shelved a project? I'm actually very curious because I feel like I don't talk about the idea of shelving projects, and I don't really consume content about it either because it's never really been a huge possibility for me. Like I'm like, well, I started the book, I'm going to finish it. And so I'm curious to see if you've shelved books, for what reason, for how long, did you ever go back to them, all that good stuff. But in the meantime, thank you for being here. Comment down below. Is there a bookshelf emoji? I don't know. We'll find out. I'll see you later.